All right, we are live. So
Cool.
back to Kim's TV interview Q&A Chronicles, and we have another special guest, and his name is Sean Huang. So
Hey everyone, how's it going?
sweet, awesome. So today is beautiful. I guess let me check. A beautiful Monday afternoon. I don't know how it is in BC right now.
It's actually pretty nice. It's like 20 degrees here. It's actually getting kind of hot. I'm not sure how it is over there, but I heard it was still like -5 like a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty crazy. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about your beginning. Like, what got you started to becoming where you're at right now, and what gave you the idea to be like, hey, you know what, this is something that I want to do. The life of an entrepreneur, a founder, the kind of the skill sets and the journey that you had to go through. What got you started to where you're at right now?
Well, so I first started I just when I came out of UBC, this was like, feels like eons ago, but a couple of years ago, I just graduated from UBC with a chemistry degree. At that point, I feel at everyone's age, when they're early 20s, they understand what they don't want to do more than what they actually want. So at that point, I wanted to go into science. I wanted to graduate, and like most people, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I took up a job as a lab analyst at one of the local hospitals here for about 6 months before I found out that this wasn't really the career path for me. I did not want to be wearing a lab coat and just pipetting things for like 9 to 5, or sometimes I have to come in at late in the evening or even like graveyard shift, right? So I wanted to do something. It was decent pay coming out as a new graduate, but I wanted to do something that would push myself out of my comfort zone. I know it's very cliche to say, going out of your comfort zone, but what I did next was complete opposite. So, I decided to look into sales position. So that's when I actually went on Indeed. I saw, marketing consultants for hire. So I basically went to do an interview, and, right away, I really liked what I saw. But, at that point, I was kind of inexperienced. I didn't realize what I was getting to. So essentially, I went into a third-party marketing firm. They're outsourced by TELUS. So back then, TELUS would hire a lot of these outsourced marketing firms to help them, mobilize their sales force, because one, it has lower overhead, and second, because these firms have a track record of doing door-to-door and B2B sales. So I started off doing the business-to-business campaign. So I literally just wore a suit. So back then, like, I had a really cheap suit. It was like almost as bad as my prom suit. Uh, Basically went into a small, medium-sized businesses, knocking on doors. At that time, Shaw, I'm sure you're all aware, Shaw has Shaw Open. So, they all have like Wi-Fi hotspots everywhere for Shaw users. So TELUS wanted to compete with them. So back then we called the campaign Swift, and I was one of the earliest people on the campaign. So we started off with 18 sales agent on a junior level.
Wow.
And by the end of the second week, only myself and someone else was remaining. So had a high, I would say, a turnover rate because it was like a revolving door. Because
Right.
at the point we were getting paid commission only, we didn't get any sort of base or salary. I remember after 1 week of training, my first paycheck was $90. And you can imagine knocking on businesses 8 hours a day for all 5 days straight, and the paycheck you see is $90. But that didn't deter me. I found that if I can do this well, if I can make good enough of money to sustain myself on commission only, that not only would I build up enough sales skill, but I will also build up other soft skills or interpersonal skills. And I did that for about, I would say, a year. And then I got promoted to senior marketing consultant, and I started managing a sales team under me. And at that time, I started breaking a lot of company record, sales
Wow.
record. But my general manager, she wanted to expand to residential side. So I wouldn't call myself demoted, but I got the privilege to help build a residential team. And at that time, it was a bit of a jump because you go from wearing business suits to talking to business owners all the way to wearing a TELUS uniform and knocking on the door. So that was kind of a bit demotivating for me, but nonetheless, I still did pretty well. So that gave me a good side of selling to consumer and to business owners, which is completely different because when you're selling to business owners, it's more about long-term value, how your tools can actually help them grow their business. On the residential side, when you're selling telecom, it's more about like people haggling on prices, promotions,
Yeah.
switching on and off. I'm pretty sure you know a lot of people that go from TELUS to Shaw because like, you know, they have like a 1 year promo thing. So at that time, I remember the previous person I told you about, the two people that were left, me and the other guy, and me and him became very good friends. And I started managing a lot of sales agents. So I came across this guy who does a lot of coding on the side. And, you know, we got along really well outside of work. We started grabbing drinks and we just thought, hey, you know, like if I can sell something, you know, to a certain extent pretty well, why don't we try to start our own startup instead of, you know, being slaves to like the corporate sales environment, right? Because there's
Yeah.
just a lot
Yeah.
of bureaucracy in the corporate sales environment that, you know, you see a lot of people try to undermine each other, and it's just not a very healthy environment. You know, startups once to get to a certain point, it's also kind of like that. But I feel like in the beginning, you really have to build up that culture yourself internally to
Yeah.
ensure as much as you can, like, you know, the environment you're working with your colleagues is healthy and that everyone wants to foster towards the same amount of growth. So we decided to jump out. This was late 2015. My first startup, we did mobile VR for architecture. So we
Mhm.
turned any 3D model from design to furnishing from CAD files into a 3D walkthrough on mobile. So we imported into a game engine called Unity. And we wanted to be the first pioneer for full 3D walkthrough on mobile because most of the VR walkthrough, like VR was the hype, right? Back then,
Yeah.
they were like, you know, Oculus Vive, and you know, people were so like, you know, like ecstatic over like, you know, AR and stuff. So we were trying to be the pioneers during that time because most of the 3D walkthrough has been done on Vive. You need to tether to a PC, so the GPU is, you know, strong enough to actually power the graphics. But we wanted to build something unique on mobile. We got a bit of traction, so we did pretty well. We got to about 100,000 in terms of revenue,
Wow.
and then we in about 8 months. So during that time, we also did a lot of, you know, probing and kind of, you know, at that time we were still very inexperienced. So coming from a sales background, going to a startup, I would say is very different because I would, if I would do it again, I would tell people that just because you feel like you have a pretty strong team or that, you know, you can sell something well enough doesn't mean you're capable enough to run a startup. That's what I
Mhm.
learned because the difference between being an excellent sales and a great founder is that great founder, you need to have a lot of discipline. And to be honest, like sales, you don't really need that much discipline, right? As long as you can hit the numbers, you can perform well. Hey, man, like
Right.
you can take like 3 hours lunch break. Even though, like, don't quote me on this, right? I don't want to get in trouble for like anybody out there. But yeah, you know, we got also accepted into Accelerator at this point. Went to a tech conference, Collision. Now it's hosted in Toronto. You know, I encourage anybody to go check it out. But back then, 2017, it was in New Orleans, and we decided to check it out. Got scoped out by accelerator called Chinaccelerator. So
Wow.
you know, we had a pretty good amount of competition. Usually for that accelerator, about 400 companies apply for different batches, and we're one of the 12 that got in. So, you know, we
Wow.
kind of just, yeah, I never been in China or any of this as well. So me and my co-founder, we just decided, hey, you know what, let's give it a try. We just packed our bags, and it was an interesting experience because going there for a year and a half, it felt like 10 years almost because I
So,
was
so you lived there for a year and a half
a year
straight.
and a half, yeah. Because Shanghai, it
Wow.
feels like every month in Shanghai feels like a year anywhere else because it's just the amount of people you meet and just the
Mhm.
amount of opportunities you can see there, right? And it was kind of funny how, you know, the whole startup journey where, you know, we signed a term sheet, you know, with the accelerator, and we basically packed our bags. And usually for the accelerator, they give you a certain amount. For us, it was about 70,000 USD, 30,000 cash, but like they also give you other perks and stuff like that to help you do soft landing, right? For a lot of companies, because what the accelerator did was they wanted to help leverage a cross-border relationship to bring startups and, you know, foster the tech ecosystem from, you know, foreign places into China and do business in
Mm.
China. So in the beginning, when we went there, we were literally like hopping from hotels to hotels because the funds did not get into the bank uh, on time for us to actually look for a rental, which was kind of screwed up at that point because, you know, we didn't know like, how much money can sustain, right? And
Yeah.
we're basically in a new country. And a year and a half later, some things happen, and it's just during the course of the accelerator. I learned a lot of valuable lesson because back then we thought we had something innovative.
Mm.
And in the end, we realized that because it's our first startup, we had a lot of sentiment attached to it. And we
Yeah.
realized that, maybe we had a solution to a problem that did not exist, right? Or like, maybe we were solving something that was more of a nice to have rather than something that's like dying, without it, no business can function. Because to
Yeah.
be honest, at this point, as much as I love VR, AR, I would say we're still a bit too early, primarily because of hardware capacity right now. And also, I
Yeah.
feel a lot of business function can be solved without deploying VR, AR. But at that time, it was really tricky because before I went through the accelerator, I would think that, a lot of times when you can't sell a product to a customer, it's your sales skill that is in question. Because I'm coming from, my brain has been kind of manipulated because I was in sales for majority of my career span, for many years. So when I went into a startup, it made me realize that, hey, if a lot of people are not buying into it as much as I want them to,
Mm.
does that mean my sales skills is in question? But in reality, it's because probably there's no desire to use the product, but you're kind of conflicted because you don't know whether or not it's your sales skill or
Right.
the product that has issue, right? But it's kind of like flip side of a coin. But at that time, it took me a long while to actually understand that maybe we don't actually have a product market fit as much as we want to. And unfortunately, at that point, my CTO, at the time, still a good friend of mine actually, and he decided that he doesn't want to pursue VR era anymore. At that time, it was pretty stressful because you can imagine a tech company where if your CTO wants to leave, basically you're kind of screwed because
Yeah.
you know all you can do right now is without any sort of proprietary, in-house development, someone to head that or spearhead that, you're left with two options, right? If you have enough funding, or be like if you have enough funding or money, you can always hire a CTO, which is like really costly, and it's not really effective for a startup at an early stage, especially considering us back then. Or what you can do is you can shift to a service-based business model. So you can still take projects, you can outsource them, find a technical team offshore, and basically make money off of that margin. But I wanted to be in tech space, not because I wanted to do service-based business. I wanted to actually build a product and actually offer something of value, as cliche as it sounds. So it was, I would say, late 2018 when I actually realized that, maybe staying in Shanghai wasn't good for me in terms of, business and things like that. My third co-founder is still in Shanghai right now, so we're still kind of taking VR projects on the side. But I flew back to Vancouver because one of my friend and colleague, who I met a long time ago, he had his previous startups, and then he also worked at Google before. And he just left his previous startup and actually approached me to say, "Hey, I'm trying to work on something. Like we chatted before, and he thought I would be a good fit to do the business side while he actually builds a product." So that's kind of how Matador came about, as well as Locust. So yeah, that's kind of like how I got here.
That's pretty cool. Wow. That's quite a journey, especially when you go from door to door is not an easy thing. So I commend everyone that's getting to door to door, especially the younger guys. And when you're developing that foundation of sales skills, it's essentially the backbone of pretty much everything.
Right.
So I figured that when you're trying a ton of companies out and you're trying to like develop something, it's that like early excitement. You know what I mean? So when you have a lot of attachment to your company, but then you kind of have to face reality that like maybe it's not a proper market fit at the right time. It's really hard. It's like your baby.
Yeah. No, definitely, I agree. Yeah, that's why for a lot of first-time founders, like my advice would be, don't really get too sentimental with your product. Actually
Mm.
find the problem before you actually go out to try to like build something, because a lot of times people work backwards. They convince
Uh,
themselves they convince themselves that there is a problem after they somewhat drag out, your product market fit
Yeah.
cycle, because product market fit, I'm sure you're all aware, is a constant iteration. It's constant, like most companies don't even get to product market fit. I would say 90% of companies don't.
Yeah.
But the more you actually try to find out problems that is out there in the market, or problems that you realize, maybe you worked at a legal firm for about 5 years and you realize, some of their processes is really outdated or archaic. So yeah, if you can find any sort of problems that is worth solving, always focus on that. Product can always come later as well. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
don't get too sentimentally attached. That's why I would say.
Definitely. And it's pretty cool because when you tie it into the marketing and the branding realm, essentially 80 to 90% of it starts with the research first. And then
Right,
you work your way backwards. And then you eventually come up with a name once you come up with the values. But in order to come up with the values, you have to come up with the problems. Right.
right.
You kind of find the need. So it's pretty parallel when it comes to finding these kind of companies. So touching base a little bit on 2018 when starting out with Locus and Matador. So what got you to decide that, hey, I think Locus is something that I should start with as well as Matador?
So Locust and Matador, I'll just try not to keep it boring for people watching this, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just try to, because anytime you talk about B2B or enterprise software, there's a lot of terms that have people look at you and go like, their eyes kind of roll up. But
Yeah.
you can kind of see Locust and Matador kind of like sister products. So they use the same backend infrastructure, where Locust is more of an earlier product. It's more consumer facing. So Locust is more about letting user basically chat about locations using a map. And we try to incorporate some augmented reality features to it, geospatial aspect, where, so let's say you open up the app, let's say someone is in the back office, someone is in the field, or let's say I have a development that is being built up, and I can actually go there and actually walk people through the site. So what I can do is I can have a rendered 3D model of the high rise, and then I can deploy it on a map to that location. So once I
Mm.
get to that location, if someone is on the app and they walk by the area, like construction like site, and if it's an empty plot of land, they can actually hold up the phone and actually see a 3D model superimposed on the plot of land. So we've been trying a
Wow.
lot of different AR. Yeah, we tried a lot of AR projects, marker-based AR, real life location size AR, stuff like that. So for Locust, it was more about trying to find product market fit, still in the process. But I would say Matador is a lot more mature in commercialization. We have some revenue, we have some channel partners and clients. So the main difference between Matador would be Matador is more focused on the actual map-based collaboration of different location-based projects. So we work with a lot of engineering firms, environmental firms. How we do that is we try to help them manage their clients' projects better by being able to visualize, manage, and upload any sort of historical data, cost analysis tool, and they can actually have an intuitive map-based dashboard
Yep.
where they can actually annotate areas of interest. So their clients will usually be oil and gas producers, upstream oil and gas producer, or exploration E&P companies. But the reason why we started to kind of rebrand our brand message a bit different on the website, if anybody's interested, it's matador.com, so matidor.com. So we shifted towards basically targeting environmentals, because you know how the oil and gas market is right now. So we try to actually, I wouldn't say pivot, but we try to change our strategic approach and branding on the website as well. So we're also trying to use the same technology to actually manage emergency staff and first responders to the field as well. So instead of back office communicating with field staff or field services, you can imagine people in the office communicating with first responders or any sort of emergency services that are being deployed. This can be rations, resources, medical supplies towards quarantine areas as well. So we're kind of working on that part of the website right now. It's not up yet, but we're in the process of trying to see if we can use the same location-based platform to help people in healthcare or to better equip frontline health workers. Because I feel like the issue these days is government is too reactive in response measure towards COVID or any sort of pandemic, right? I think the better approach would be if you look at countries in China. I wouldn't say looking at China is a good example because obviously there's a lot happening in China that is not public, and all the message that comes out is either manipulated or controlled, right? But the one thing I would say they're doing a lot better is they're actually using a lot of technology, big data, and a lot of different technology to actually track, monitor, and prevent any sort of future outbreaks, which I feel like right now at this point, if you look at any sort of Canadian government procurement website, they're still very, onto getting face masks, medical supplies, which is more on the reactive side, right? I mean, not so much preventative as it is reacting towards any sort of outbreak and treating it. And I feel if we have some better technology in terms of preventative measure, we could save, potentially like thousands of lives, and a lot of people in the healthcare industry would be a lot better off if we have better tools or processes in place. So that's kind of my take. And we wanted to see if we can use the same technology and actually help these frontline workers that are out there every day.
Wow, that's really commendable of you. And so because of the these tools that will actually help out with prevention, because now they're able to actually track where the outbreaks are and actually have a visualization. What are you doing right now to try and like get more people to use that platform?
So right now we're partnering up with one of the companies. They do more of a mobile response to hazard and quarantine areas. And they have previous connection with the municipality of Okanagan and Nanaimo. So we're trying to see if we can start two trials with them first, because the issue right now is we need to get more data set onto the platform, because most of our data primarily before were pipelines, well sites, things like that. So the idea right now is we want to get more strategic partner onto the platform so that we can actually enhance some of the product feature offerings to tailor more towards addressing emergency responses. So yeah, right now, besides the 2 trial pilots, we're just trying to get more customer feedback, if you will. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So I'm gonna actually help you share that, because I want to get more people to get on that, because I think that's a great cause. And I'll even once you get more data from the trial, I'll help you out with getting the word out in Alberta as well, because I think this is super important.
Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries, my pleasure. So pretty crazy transition from doing sales and then doing foundership and being in Shanghai Accelerator and then going back to Vancouver, and then all of a sudden you're doing a lot of these map basing tools and AR and VR. What got you to suddenly be into that industry or that space with the energy and the oil and gas? Like, what was that transition?
So the transition came from because my technical co-founder, his previous startup and his previous work experiences have been, on a more GIS side. So for those who don't understand, GIS is Geographic Information System. He was the team lead for Google Earth. So he worked there for about 2 years. And his previous startup, he worked in the oil and gas space as well. So he built a lot of system and processes for these producers that need to manage a lot of location-based project. And at the time, there was a problem where he saw they were still using a lot of spreadsheets. So for those that use spreadsheets, obviously it's a very painful experience if you have to look at manually where the location is, and you have to see, the project activity pertaining to the site. Because I would say most people are very visual. We're very visual animals, right? So having everything shown on a map-based dashboard with the ability to see activity updates, I feel like is super important, because the activity updates, what that allows is, if you're a project manager working on 5 different locations, you actually get first time notification on, for example, there's something happening at project 2 and project 4. those need to be acted upon right away with urgency. While the other project, they have progress, but there's nothing really urgent or points of interest that you need to react to as much. So we wanted to kind of just build out a system, and my co-founder always feel that with this kind of system, you can manage to improve efficiency for any sort of organization. So one use case was we worked with a producer. So they were managing about 200 well sites. And after using Matador, they went to about managing 600 sites. So about 300% increasing efficiency, so to say.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, definitely. Because a lot of times these producers use a lot of different tools. They use spreadsheet. They use very enterprise-facing GIS tools that you need to hire GIS specialists for. But a lot of times, when you have field staff, they need something intuitive in the palm of their hands to actually, upload the data, be able to do offline syncing, and be able to communicate in a two-way sharing, so to say, two-way sharing of data between back office and people in the field. But conventionally, a lot of software don't allow that capacity or capability to have a lot of two-way sharing. So that's kind of where we saw we can fill the gap.
Right. And would you say there are other competitors within the nation, within Canada?
Yeah. So we have different competitors. One of them is similar to what we're building right now, but I would say the difference is they don't really have like a cost analysis tool that can be beneficial for a lot of project manager that need to keep track of invoice, field tickets, or any sort of expenditures during a lot of these projects. And what our competitor is doing more funny you mentioned is they're also more on the disaster relief side. One of our competitor right now is they're working, I think, with the district of Kelowna. So up there's a lot of forest fire, there's a lot of flooding, especially during summertime. There's a lot of potential hazard for forest fire. So the platform actually reacts to that in a sense that it allows people to actually pinpoint where fires are happening and be able to react to it with first responders. So yeah, it's doing a lot of cool things. Yeah.
This is some super cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel like location-based data is actually really huge. Yeah, I think it will be like, I'm not saying it's the hype right now, but I feel it actually has value because location is very important in terms of not just sharing where you are, but any sort of data or metadata that's pertaining to around the area could be beneficial for any sort of vendors or anybody just wanting to know more about what's going on at the place at that time.
Definitely. I really like that because it has high impact on everything. It has a high impact in terms of getting that response, making sure that we're on top of our reaction and our map-based tool because pretty crazy because I mean 30, 40 years ago, like everything was slow. It was like what, like normal cars with like carrier pigeons, and now we're going to like radio to TV to the internet. Now we're getting AR, VR, we're getting quick-based mapping tools.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty awesome, man. Definitely. And it must be pretty fulfilling for you on your end as well, because it does have a big fulfillment internally as well as your whole team.
Yeah, I feel like it actually has a lot more value in terms of, I'm not comparing my previous business to this one, but in terms of solving more of a pain, I would feel like this is probably higher on the scale for sure, because VR AR is cool and neat. There's obviously very B2B applications right now for AR, medical, in terms of taking apart engines or any sort of medical equipment to actually create digital twins of that, so you can save a lot of costs in terms of the assembly and so on. So there's definitely use case, but I feel like in terms of this, it's actually good because we actually got a lot of customer feedback, and the case studies have been great. So, but this is obviously pre-COVID, so this is the reason why we wanted to see if there's any other opportunities outside of oil and gas that we can actually pursue. So, yeah, I mean, I think in light of the whole COVID situation, it really teaches people how to adapt. Good example is looking at your awesome haircut seminar, right?
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is still looking fresh.
No, I had to. No, I kind of. So this is kind of like a bed here. I don't have any product in it, but
Right.
yeah, it's
The
okay.
sides are still good. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but this
Yeah.
one it's not blended
Yeah.
that much. Yeah, because I kind of got greedy one time. I tried to. Yeah, I think that's a good thing about cutting your own hair, man. Like I mentioned too, is that you can stay looking fresh every day.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
I was actually quite impressed that you were able to jump into the skin fade right away. So that's not an easy feat because especially with the tools, I'm not sure if you're using a regular tool from like your local drugstore.
Yeah, I am. I actually use like those those beard trimmer shapes.
Ah,
Yeah, with
those
the
things.
changeable thing, and then it's like painting, right? So I just kind of like blend it like this. Yeah,
And you got that skin part. Yeah, that's actually impressive. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of the tools in the your local drugstore, they're not the same measurements as the professionals. So
right.
I could only imagine the process and the pain for the skin because when you're doing that skin fade, it's really tight.
Yeah,
Must
yeah.
be really tight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard, man, especially the back too, because it's kind of like you have to look at like the mirror, and then you have to hold it up. Yeah,
And you
you,
gotta move your muscles the
yeah,
opposite
yeah,
direction because your
yeah.
brain's
It's hard. Yeah,
right.
it's
Awesome.
like playing a first person shooter if you're not used to instant controls, right? Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to move down and then you move up. Yeah,
Right. Just like that, pretty
yeah.
much. So right before we wrap things up, I'm gonna go through some of the personal interview questions, and this is based off of Tim Ferriss's Tribe of Mentors. So
Sure.
I really like these questions because it gets really like into who you are and how I guess your thought process works, and just the bottom line of just the overall like character trait of what you are. So I guess the first question is, what books have you given or recommended out as a gift and why? So what would be the top three that has influenced you the most?
I would say the top three that has influenced me the most would be Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. 0 to 1, obviously, Peter Thiel. That's like the holy Bible for any startups. And I don't want to say Lean Startup by Eric Ries, but
Yeah.
I would say definitely the Lean Startup series because it really teaches people how to think fast on their feet, be agile, and just cut a lot of unnecessary steps and
Mm,
a lot of costs when you try to do your own startup. Because the one thing about startup is that you always have to be very agile and lean, and you always have to try to mitigate your expenses so you can extend your runway. And I would say Fanatical Prospecting, why it's very influential is because Jeb Blunt goes into details about, nowadays all these so-called like self-proclaimed like sales guru. I'm pretty sure you
yeah.
see the line, right? Like, hey, if you if you subscribe to my webinar, you actually uncover the secret to like stack up your funnels, or like cold calling's outdated. I can hack your email response, how to code email and get like 30% increase. Subscribe now. Or like, hey, you know what? This book used to be like $30, now it's free, but like join my webinar, right? And Jeff Blunt basically puts all these people down saying, the reason why a lot of people is online telling you not to do cold calling is because no one likes to do cold calling. But he's saying
Yeah.
cold calling is the only way to actually build your pipeline, make sure your pipeline is healthy, and actually
Mm,
improve your sales process. And he actually goes into depth about telling how you should prepare your mindset to do cold calling. Because at the end of the day, like no one likes cold calling. I don't like receiving cold calls. You probably don't like receiving cold calls. But sometimes you have to do it. I mean, it's a necessary evil. It's kind of like eating a frog. You might as well get it done early in the day rather than like procrastinate. And I feel like that's definitely helped me a lot in terms of improving my sales skills, because I come from an angle where I'm talking to people face to face. When you're doing B2B or door to door, when someone sees your face, uh,
mhm.
intuitively or subconsciously, they won't, because they know you saw their face. So they don't want to be a dick or an asshole. So they'll actually be nicer to you in person. As much as
Uh,
they want to object to you, they won't just hang up on you. But on the phone, if someone picks up, they don't like what they're hearing, they can just,
Right.
hang up on the other side, right? So cold calling is really having to really grab someone's interest within the 4 seconds when you talk to someone. And I actually have a post on my LinkedIn article actually about cold calling. So if you guys
Sweet.
can check it out. Yeah, so I would say those three books are probably the most influential books to me.
Awesome. I really like that. And we'll post your article link on the comment section below too, just so
Sure.
people take a look. Sweet. So next question is, what purchase of $100 or less has positively impacted your life?
Uh, that's an easy one. I don't want to say this because it's kind of embarrassing. My friends all make fun of me. I would say Audible. Audible would be probably the best investment anybody can ever make.
Yep.
So I would say, I always, because I drive around a lot, especially when I go see clients or customers. So a lot of my time prior to COVID was spent on the road, and I think rather than listening to news or radio, you can actually get a lot out of your morning commute if you actually crank on audibles. I mean, I go through about 3 or 4 books each week before.
Wow.
Yeah, and my friends make fun of me. They're saying, "Oh, you're reading books
Uh,
on Audible, right?" I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm a audio learner sometimes." But I feel like the process of actually picking, like, I have physical books too, but it's just when you're outside, or when you're not at the right situation to actually be able to sit down and relax and actually read a book. I feel like Audibles definitely would be one of those top investment that is under $100 that I have made for sure.
wow. I really like that. That's like super good because it's very time efficient as well. So you're being
Yeah,
really productive and just getting overall the best value out of your day.
yeah, exactly.
Sweet. So next question is, how has a failure set you up later for success? So what moment or thinking has triggered that despair?
So I would say the biggest failure, or the situation where I found myself to have a difficult time in, was
Right.
that moment when my previous co-founder or CTO decided to kind of leave the company. We kind of try to talk him to stay for a bit. Obviously, me and him are still friends because I don't let business relationships sour into the personal ones. We left on good terms, but I think at that moment was a wake up call for me because, you know, um, I had so many sleepless nights over that, right? Like
Yeah.
your good friend, your co-founder left your company, especially your tech company. So what are you gonna do? Like, do you have to go back to work for someone else, or things like that? And I mean, it was kind of unfortunate because at the time I had a lot of job offers as well, but I chose to stuck onto my company back then because I felt like the three of us were like blood brothers, right? Like, we tackle like sales for many years together, like we manage different people. Yeah, it's just really unfortunate back then, and I think that set me up for success because it made me realize that your startup is not your baby all the time. You should look at it more as a project, or an aspect of your career development, right? A
Mm,
lot of people care a lot about the end goal. Like, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, they think the metric for success in their business is being able to raise money from investor, but it's not, right? The metric of success for your business is be able to actually be self-sufficient, customer funded. But at the same time, you have to, as a founder, to be an actual successful founder, you have to actually appreciate the process of failing. Because if you don't
mm,
embrace failing, ultimately you're gonna fail even more in the long run. And I feel like the minute my previous partner left me was because at that point before we had so many signs, but we chose to ignore it. We didn't embrace failure earlier enough. And so that was a good wake up call, I would say, during that time. And that set me up for, I wouldn't say success right now, because obviously right now we're still all trying to work our way, trying to hustle. But I would say it definitely made me, I would say, more aware of my business rather than looking at it as, this is my baby. I need to hold on to it. Doesn't matter what other people say. They're not, thinking innovative enough, because you probably see a lot of motivational quotes about Elon Musk and things like that. And it kind of, I mean, it works in their situation because like they're Elon and they're like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, but like I feel like a lot of people kind of take it too much into heart. So
Yes.
kind of become toxic where they think they have something, like they're the next Elon, they have something super innovative. Doesn't matter what customers say, everyone's ridiculous, like like the spot, but like they just don't understand, and one day I'll prove them wrong. But like unless you're Elon or you're Bill, like I would say a lot of times, please listen to your customers. A lot of times your customers' feedback, no matter how savage or how blunt it is, like just actually take it in, and yeah, it'll actually get you a lot further than just sticking to your own intuition sometimes.
I really like that, and I guess that really plays a lot into the whole. Most people play not to lose rather than playing to win.
Right. Yeah. Should enjoy the process more than the results for sure.
Yeah. And it's crazy because Gary Vee, he always talks about that. Like everyone that he interviews are like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm at this age. I don't know what to do. It's like, why? It's like he always hammers down like the process, the process, the process.
Yeah. No, definitely, I agree. Yeah, Gary Vee has really good, like he's real, man. Like he's like it's fun, but like yeah, he keeps it pretty real. He just puts people on the spot, and I feel like once you get to the level of you're at a level of success when you can swear publicly at people in the crowd, like like we'll just take it.
When you got the value out there, it's like
yeah.
Even the diehard fans, they don't care. Like I don't know if you've seen Dan Pena's videos on YouTube, but it's like some old ass dude swearing and calling people cunts, and they're like lazy, but he can back it up because he's $1 trillion man.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw on a post on LinkedIn. He's trying to sue people for frauding his name or something like that.
He's wild. I mean, you gotta be, I guess, controversial in order to succeed. Because I mean, Dan Bilzerian, Conor McGregor, stuff like that. Like,
right.
You really like when you really own up to like who your value is. It doesn't matter because that's your value. Like even the diehard fans for Dan Pena, like they don't care. They're not hurt by what he says because they're just so consuming in all his like values. So
yeah. No, because I think like once you get to a certain level, if your audience already know what you're trying to do, and your brand message and your value proposition is clear enough, you'll definitely get a lot of support that way, and people won't really judge you on the shallow things like what you say, because you already added value through your content into their lives, right? So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So we got a couple more questions left, and the next one is, if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere, what would it say and why?
If I have a gigantic billboard somewhere, I would say, you know what? On the billboard, I would say the key to all success, I would say, as cliche as it sounds, would be tenacity and persistence. And it's very hard to be persistent because a lot of times you need a lot of self-motivation to actually get through the day. But I feel like the key to actually being successful is actually have that persistent to go from failure to failure with optimism, right? Like on the billboard, if I can quote Winston Churchill, I would probably put on that like quote saying that success is being able to jump from failure to failure with optimism. So that's one of his famous lines, and I think I will probably put that on the billboard. Actually, that's actually what I put on the yearbook graduation. That's actually what I put on graduation. Yeah, actually that quote. Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
My high school graduation. I don't want to reveal too much about my age, but if anyone's like good at on the spot math, I graduated high school in 2000. Actually, wait, hold on. Let me think. Yeah, 2007. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right when the recession.
right before that hits. Yeah. And it's super bad. Speaking of which, back then, like, the crashing 08, like I was still at university, right? So I'm just like, yeah, what's all the commotion about? Now I'm like, yeah, it's not fun, man. It's not fun. Back then, like, it's bad, but like, after coming out of school and being the professional, workforce, now you start to actually realize the gravity of the situation, right? And you're like, shit. Yeah. So yeah.
Crazy. I really like that. So, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
I would say my ritual back then would be, no matter if it's winter or summer, like even if it's like freezing cold, I always need to have like a venti iced americano or like a iced americano. That's like my weird habit or ritual. You can call it morning ritual. And I always need to get like 6 espresso shots instead of 4.
Oh
So,
crap!
yeah, I used to pile on that like crazy, man. And it's funny, all my when I was working when I was working with TELUS, all my colleagues would make fun of me because it would be literally like -2 or like -3 here, and I would still be holding like in my hands an iced americano, right? Everyone has like a hot London fog or like a caramel macchiato, but here I am with like a huge ass, ice cold americano. And that's like my go-to, and that's definitely like my signature for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's crazy because I still eat ice cream in -10, -15. So
I just don't like hot drinks as much. Like I can drink soup, but it's just something about hot drinks that, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I heard, even my fiance is telling me, but as you get older, she's always like, you need to drink more hot tea, you need to drink more, hot things. It's healthier for you, things like that. So yeah, I've been trying to cut back on coffee and ice, but before I always have. And just to let you guys know, like, I don't recommend this, but when I was back in sales, I used to drink 4 Americanos. So that's about 24 espresso
oh my,
throughout the day. Yeah, pretty bad.
God,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like I have a buddy that like I used to work with back at the cell phone shop at the stores. And I would go back to the office and I would see like almost like 80 to 90 like empty cans of energy drinks, and this guy just kept downing them. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's super unhealthy, man. Like, when I was in university, all the all the all-nighters with Red Bulls and things like that. So
that's crazy, man. So yeah, for you viewers out there, if you're thinking about your health, right on the side, hit me up. I have a friend named Amir, and he actually is a health and fitness expert for entrepreneurs. So
cool.
awesome. So next question is, can you please share an example pairing of a past moment and a particular YouTube music video?
Past moment, and sorry, can you repeat the question again?
So essentially, past memory or moment that is really impactful to you, and what would that represent through a YouTube video?
I don't know if you guys know this song, but Hip Hop Saved My Life by Lupe Fiasco. It's a
Ooh.
great song, great music video, and it's basically talking about, like, having to keep their eyes on the mark, having to keep their eyes on the target. Essentially, I think it was reference to Slim Thug. So it's talking actually like a true rendition of like, he used to flip crack and coke, like, on the street. He used to like sell blow and stuff to get by, but like, he decided that wasn't a life for him, so he started focusing on rapping, going to all these different stuff just to prove his worth. And yeah, he says, one of the most famous lines would be like, murder is a grind, but hip hop saved my life, right? So I feel like that's definitely something, very entrepreneurial. If you actually can take in the meaning. So it basically tells you that, like, like, he had to stuck on, like, to what he believed in. Otherwise he would go back to that life, like selling, flipping like blow and stuff like that on the street. So yeah, definitely. I would say that's probably one of my most favorite music and YouTube videos of all time. Yeah, Hip Hop Saved My Life by Lupe Fiasco.
Wow, I'm gonna actually listen to that after this.
Yeah, listen to the lyrics, man. Seriously, it's good.
It's crazy how a lot of these songs have a huge attachment to I guess our drive, because we do have like similar road paths. Like at the end of the day, like we're all here for just to prove ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And actually be able to focus on the goal. And that song also talks about, there's a lot of distraction that, like, could have directed him back to that life, because he had a kid. He had to like pay for stuff. So he had a lot of things going on that he had all these like weight to carry, right? And he obviously grew up in a ghetto neighborhood, so it's just he had to stick to that life, or he had to like actually try to like so therefore hip hop saved his life.
Sick, man. So, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life?
I would say discipline to stick to routines, because to be honest, I was never a really organized person. I didn't really believe in routine. I was more spontaneous, sporadic, more about improvising, winging things, and even through school as well, right? I got pretty decent grades by winging, or like just not having to study as much, and obviously that kind of went downhill in university. So I recommend people study as hard as you can in university, because high school is like completely different. But I would say I never really had to be this disciplined until recently. And I think that's one of the factors with why my first startup did not take off as it should, was because like I mentioned before, it takes a lot of discipline from an operational standpoint, sticking to a routine, be able to actually hold yourself accountable to certain things. It's different than being a sales manager, right? Like you just need to go into a sales workshop, like motivate your team, tell them to sell, tell them to do well, like, and basically care more about performance. I would say a lot of times, people like focus too much on the input rather than the output. But I can tell you that, without the proper discipline, your output will always drastically be a lot less than your input. So with the right amount of discipline and adhering to certain schedules, you can actually get a lot done even before, like, let's say lunchtime, someone's day. You can actually get most of your work done, and then leave like the other stuff for gym, for meditation, for a lot of self like productive things that you could do. So I would say be more disciplined. I think that's one of the things I had to definitely pick up, because prior, like before 5 years prior to this, I was like the most, I would say, undisciplined person you can probably come across. So, yeah.
That's hard to believe. It's weird. Like, it's crazy. I can't see that.
Oh yeah, trust me, man. I did a complete. A lot of my friends growing up, they don't really recognize me anymore. So I did a. I think it was a good wake up call. Gone through some stuff, personal things, and just decided to completely kind of flip my life around. So yeah.
Wow, amazing. So now, in the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to? So what new realizations and approaches have helped you to deal with that?
I would say in the last 5 years, I became really good at saying no to going out with friends.
Oh, that's a big one.
I say it like more and more. I think I have friends in a group chat. They're always making fun of me, saying that they don't see me anymore, or if I say something, they're like, "Who's this?" I think it's also because I just learned at a certain age you really need to spend a lot of time by yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I used to like going out. Like everyone used to go like clubbing, partying, someone's house to like throw ragers and like just get crazy and stuff, right? But I feel like the older you get, the more you should spend more time understanding what you want, and knowing what you are as a person. Because I can tell you for sure that most people go out, it's not for themselves. It's to either entertain their friends, or like just entertain themselves by like being there. Like maybe they wanted to go out because they wanted the attention from other people. Like if you know yourself well enough, if you're self-aware enough, you don't need the recognition from other people. You don't need to actually go out and feel that attention or that affection from others, right?
Yeah.
So always just keep a close group of friends now, and everyone's just busy working. So yeah, like they don't really give you a hard time if you actually say no, right? And I feel like I've become good at saying no, because just started prioritizing work more. And I used to have to find excuse not to like say not to go out, saying, "Oh, I'm sick, I don't feel well." But now I just say like, "Hey man, I just don't feel like going out this weekend. You guys have
Right.
fun, be there in spirit." Yeah. So yeah, the more you actually say no to going out, it's not like I'm trying to advocate you like not having to go out with your friends, stuff like that. But you actually you can't believe actually how much stuff you get done. If you actually just stick with yourself and actually do a lot more productive things at home. Yeah. See, if I went out with my friends during this time, even though like I shouldn't be, I wouldn't have been able to like learn how to cut my own hair, right? Like I even tell
Yeah.
a lot of my friends say, yeah, my hair looks like crap. I need to get a haircut. And I'm like, why don't you just cut your own hair, man? Like you pick up new skills, like, you can always stay looking good. They're like, oh no, it's okay. Like people like you'd be surprised. A lot of people just don't want to like get out of their comfort zone, right? Like, but for me, like I'm all for the challenge, man. Like if I can do it, like I try to do it as well as I can. And if I like fuck up, then I learn, and then that's how you grow. People don't like doing uncomfortable things because like, they don't want the pain of doing that, but it's the pain that helps you grow, right? So yeah.
Definitely. I really like that because there are mistakes to be learned that can be prevented, and you can watch that from others, but then there's a lot that has to be experienced. So essentially, like, I guess on the positive note of this whole situation, it's
Right.
got a lot of people to really reflect and reassess themselves, and it's really fun to change a lot of their, I guess, negative behaviors and their thought patterns. And I
Right.
think this is a really good reset.
I think so too, especially for the whole ecosystem and climate, man. Like, carbon emissions like down, and like, rivers and canals, like, in very populated places are like clearing up, right? Like in Venice too, for example, like the people can actually see into the water now. So
Wow.
I think it's a good reset button, right? I'm not going to like go into any conspiracy theory here, but like, like I feel like honestly, as much as I would like things to go back to normal, but I also feel like, this is why people should enjoy the process, right? Like we all want this to be over. We all feel like this is like, killing us. But I feel like, the smart people or like the persistent people will find ways to actually make good of this time and
Mhm.
enjoy the process of actually, not actually enjoy the process of right now, but actually enjoy the process of, being able to have more time to themselves, be able to, develop more other set of skills. Like I know buddies that pick up like, coding skills like Java, things like that. And people start drawing and things like that. And honestly, I think it's really good because a lot of people don't realize they can do a lot of things because like, they're so used to like just, either getting other people to do it or like, just going to a restaurant, things like that, right? Like some people don't probably even know they can cook as well as they think they can, right? Like they probably cook like they're like, whoa, I can actually cook pretty decent, right? So yeah, I feel like this is a good reset button for sure.
Definitely. I really like that because I was forced to learn how to cook, and I hated it. And I think I had a lot of excuses, but I think the real reason was I was just lazy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I've learned how to actually create more nutritional things that are better than just going to McDonald's. That's convenient, you
yeah,
know. So I was able to save a lot of money. I was able to eat better. I work out at home more often now. Like I've never really went to a gym, but I kind of use the gym as a physical excuse to get it done. But at home, it's like prison workouts. Like I can get everything done at home without having to leave.
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are just, they're too they're too stuck on a certain routine that, I must go to a gym to work out because going to a gym subconsciously makes me feel like I'm there to work out. Like home is not where I
Yes.
work out, right? But I feel
Yes,
like people need to start learning how to adapt to certain situation. And yeah,
definitely. And it's crazy. Like going to the gym, it's almost really, really like similar to like going out clubbing. It's that same attention thing.
yeah,
I feel like there's a fad going to certain gyms.
yeah, exactly. Especially gyms like Equinox.
Yeah, there's a gym called Good Life here, and that's where all like the fitness junkies and the Instagram models all go to. So the guys go there, the girls go there, and
Yeah, I think that's like that with I think Good Life here is actually not that bad. Gold's Gym is more but I think Gold's Gym is more for the serious bodybuilders, right? Like
right.
Good Life and Steve Nash are for people that like, just I see a lot of them actually. And my friends are, they used to be personal trainer at Steve Nash, so they would tell me a lot of stories. So
And that's for another time.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. So just the last questions, like what are the bad recommendations you hear in your profession in your area of expertise?
So I hear a lot of bad advice. When I was going through my first startup, is that I had a lot of different, essentially, advice from different advisors, if you will. So to any entrepreneurs there, first-time founders that are building their own business, beware of predatory advisors, I would call them, because they just try to like prey on new founders that have no experience, and like just try to like suck them in, to pay for their services, or not actually give them, any sort of legitimate advice, right? And I would say one of the, we'll name who that person is, but one of the advice that I got was, um, focus on, focus on, primarily focus on, your product market fit, by, focusing on like sales. But honestly, a lot of times focusing on sales during product market fit does not, having sales does not indicate you have good product market fit.
Mm,
Uh, I can guarantee if you have product market fit, you will have good scale sales. But it's not the other way around. People like to think that, but in reality, is to find good product market fit, you're not supposed to sell your customers first. You're supposed to actually, probe, because a lot of times you can't really just sell something to someone. You have to actually probe and actually find out if there is a pain that is worth solving, because that is one of the mistakes I made. Was I just kept selling and selling and selling, just try to push for sales, and basically told myself that, hey, if they'll pay me for it, even a pilot, that means I have good product market fit. That's the problem with my first startup, was because that made me go into a cycle of, having a solution to a problem that does not really exist. And I thought we had good product market fit, and I think, we had a lot of different awards too. Like we made it to semifinalists out of so top 12 presenting companies out of 88 at the Seattle Angel Conference. um, I was in Shanghai. I got ninth place at the whole like Chinese TechCrunch
wow.
competition. Yeah, so they had 9 cities. The final was in Shanghai. So I was the internet wildcard winner. So even though we had a lot of exposure, a lot of recognition, we were shortlisted. We were one of the featured companies in one of the most reputable convention and conferences, like Slush. They're called Slush in Shanghai. Um, yeah, featuring Mobile World Congress too. But it's like none of that really matters, because at the end of the day, I just thought, sales and that basically went hand in hand. But in reality, a lot of times, if you just focus purely on sales and like these PR things, they're what we call vanity metrics, right? So they look nice, like, you have some revenue coming in, you have people that's willing to sign up, but you really need to, even, I'm not saying when customers sign up and they pay for you, it's a bad sign. I'm not saying that at all, but it's like how you approach it, right? Like you should look at it as, maybe I can get more sales if I dig deeper and find out their pain,
Mm,
rather than like just keep repeating the same process, trying to sell them, trying to have the same, product offering and things like that. Because I feel like no matter what stage of maturity you are in your company, you should always try to tweak your brand message accordingly, to actually keep testing, keep iterating. um, Great if you have like 10 customers, but what if you can have 20, right? But back then, the advice I got was, oh, if you can generate enough sales, that means you have, good product market fit. But it's not like that. But if you have good product market fit, you will for sure
mm,
generate, a lot of sales and get a lot of users. But it's not really the other way around. Sometimes if you get a lot of sales, in the beginning, does not mean you'll keep getting a lot of sales, right? So getting sales now is not a good invitation, good, like, you know it's not a good indicator of, how much you're going to potentially grow into. So I would say, definitely that's one of like the advice. I wouldn't say it's a bad or worse advice, but I would just say it was an advice that kind of, threw me off a bit.
yeah, I really like that. This is gonna help a lot of people, Sean.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, anytime, like, feel free, if you guys have any question, feel free to reach out to me. If you guys want as well. Kim, you have my LinkedIn, right?
Definitely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, feel free to share my LinkedIn as well if anybody wants to reach out. Happy to hear more from you, and see how we can help each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah,
And you got a ton of value from this. So if you again you want to connect with Sean, we'll have the link below. Check out his stuff, and I really wish the best for him and his company. And I think it's gonna help millions of people. So
thanks a lot, man. Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, stay safe, everyone.
thank you so much, Sean. Until next time.
Cheers.